out in his very tiny office in Seattle where it's very rainy. And that's probably enough vamping for now, so I'm going to hit that intro. Probably enough, hopefully enough. Anyway, here comes the part where I say, "Hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema." If you're not familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So it is the month of May 2024, and is once again that very special time of the month wherein we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy Brad from the Cinema Speak podcast. How's it going, Brad?
It is going great. It's been a good month so far. We got summer movie season is here, and we're not talking about movies that are in theaters right now. We're talking about our own physical media collection, of course. Trevor, didn't mean to step on your toes there. What are we doing here, man? Let's get the details.
Well, welcome back to the show as always. The show is so much easier to do with somebody to actually have a conversation with and actually share some stuff about our movies collections about. If you're not familiar with the format, dear listeners and hopefully viewers, a Tales from the Shelf episode is essentially an excuse for Brad and I to talk about our respective physical media collections. As you may have noticed on our webcams here, we both have quite a few DVDs, Blu-ray, and 4K discs, a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows, things of that nature. And this show serves as our platform to, share some stories in our collecting journey of collecting films and whatnot, physical media. So each month, we try to coordinate things in the form of having like a unifying theme to guide the discussion. And this month, we're doing a little something in anticipation, I guess, of a film that's about to come out this week, Brad?
This Friday.
Yeah. Brad, you go ahead, do the honors. What film are we doing this particular topic in service to?
Well, we one of my, and I would assume maybe one of your most anticipated movies of the year coming out this weekend, Garfield. So we're doing movies with cats in them. No, I'm joking. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, coming out this Friday. So we are talking about movies containing vehicles, but specifically land-based vehicles. Is that right, Trevor?
Yes, land and or ground-based vehicles only. The official title of today's episode is Valiant Vehicles, which I know is a completely gibberish arrangement of words, but hey, we try to be alliterative with their titles, and V is kind of a hard one to work with. So Valiant Vehicles is the official title of the theme, the official subject of the discussion. But really all we're going to be talking about is movies that feature not even movies entirely based around, but just simply films that feature ground-based vehicles of some sort, hopefully prominently in the film, but it doesn't have to be like a movie that exclusively takes place on the road or something like that.
Yeah, as long as there's like one big vehicle scene or moment or something like that, that's all it took for me. I don't know if that was your criteria. One of these, which I think I might talk about, not first, but one of these has one vehicle scene very memorable, but not, it's not even like some of these, like there's not even action scenes, just there might be a certain scene involving a car and some way, we'll get into it, but it's there had to be at least one key scene involving a land-based um I was gonna say motor vehicle, but I mean, maybe some of these don't have motors. I don't know. Do trains have motors? I actually don't know.
I'll
They
tell
have
you right
engines.
now. I'll tell you right now. Spoilers. I may or may not have a film that involves a bicycle, which is a ground-based, air quotes, vehicle.
I should have known this guy would choose bicycle thieves. This guy trying to look so NYU film school graduate over here.
No, I didn't pick
Bicycle
the
thieves,
bicycle thief.
whatever they're
I'm not
called.
that highbrow. I'm not that high class. I'm familiar with the film. Haven't seen it. Um, but if we're doing truth telling, like if I'm going to make a habit out of this of revealing myself in public via the podcast, not in the bad way, like just exposing little
Whoa,
details about my personal history.
exposing.
Whoa. Hey, we haven't dropped any profanity yet in the first 10 minutes of this podcast. We're on the right track. We're not about to get dirty here, folks. But last week on the podcast, I shared on the Heavyweights podcast that review, that solo review, the shortest episode in the history of catching up on cinema. A review based around a movie that I happen to really, really love. I shared that I was a pretty fat kid back in the day. I don't know if I'd ever said that on the podcast before, but going into a discussion about a comedic film about fat fucking kids, I decided I should probably throw that on the table as part of my list of bona fides heading into that conversation. Um, Today, I guess I'll share that I don't know how to ride a bike. I do, in fact,
Whoa, really?
own at least one movie that's about bike riding. But yeah, I've never actually rode a bike in my entire life.
Wow, that is that well, because we live in different parts of the country. Is that normal where you're at, or is that
Absolutely not.
okay?
No, Seattle is a very, very bike friendly town.
hmm
We have bikes all over the place. In fact, uh, if you're having one of those awkward conversations with somebody you don't know, and it's like a "How about them Cowboys" kind of conversation, or "How's the weather" kind of conversation, usually you'll end up in the territory of, "Yeah, so fuck those bike lanes, right?" Because like everybody in this town has something to say about those
hmm
bike lanes.
hmm
But yeah, I don't know about you. Do you have biking in your area?
I would say as much as a normal area would have it. Not like a huge. I'm not in a major city, so not a lot of people can bike to places. Most people do have to drive, because not everything. There's distance, but yeah, I got a bike.
Not a
I sometimes
loser.
I sometimes bike. I don't actually have it with me. It's in my parents' garage,
Huh.
but I do have one.
Okay. Well, anyway, that was bike talk. Good podcast, Brett. So let's get into the discussion proper. So again, the subject matter is land-based vehicles. That's the unifying theme guiding today's discussion. So I'm going to do my hosting duty here and promptly toss Brad directly in front of the bus, the oncoming bus, and ask that he be the first one to serve up his first Valiant vehicle pick. So, Brad, what you got for us?
Well, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna jump right in. You might disagree with this. This might be a bad form. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I figure let's do it. I mean, it's relevant. Let's talk the Mad Max movies because I got them. Let's get them out of the way right up top here because stay relevant. People are googling this. AI will hear me say Mad Max at the beginning of this. It's gonna be great for SEO. But I do have all of them. I have all of them on Blu-ray. Unfortunately, I do not own any of the 4Ks, but I have the original Mad Max. I have the Scream Factory disc, I should say. I have the Road Warrior. I have Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and of course, I have Mad Max Fury Road in a steelbook. Now, this was when I was still dipping my toes in the steelbook realm. Not really as much of a steelbook guy anymore. But yeah, I really like this franchise. Definitely not a franchise I grew up with. I can say that 100%. I think I had seen the original Mad Max before, but I think the first time I watched Road Warrior and Thunderdome was before Fury Road came out. So I'm not like a super fan or anything, but I do really like um, I would say really like to love two of the movies in here. One of them is quite good. The other one is okay, and I'm sure you can figure out which are which. Um, but I did actually rewatch Fury Road last night, and whew, it had been a while since I'd watched it, and it holds up. It is a banger. It is so good, and yeah, just some amazing stunt work. Just incredible action, well shot. I love the simplicity of Fury Road and the Road Warrior as well. I don't remember those ones as much because I haven't seen them in quite a while. But yeah, it's a great franchise and one of the more consistent action franchises out there. And if Furiosa delivers, then I mean its consistency will just keep on growing.
Yeah, Mad Max is a truly incredible franchise of films. It's really remarkable. Just again, consistency is a key word that you threw out there. Um, just the fact that they're all directed by George Miller is alone is kind of incredible to me.
Yeah.
Like you would have expected some studio meddling or something to happen that would make it not his anymore. Um, we got a comment here: Thunderdome Tina Turner style.
I
Uh,
I I'll
that
say
hair, that outfit, man, for
I
real.
I love the song. The song is amazing. I mean, I think the movie has some good moments. I feel like it was a little like the stuff with the kids. It's the kids in that one, right? And like that
Yeah.
stuff. I hate children. So just anything with kids automatically. No, no. That's why Fury
Yeah.
Road's so great. There's like no kids in it. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're largely of age in that film. Like they get kind of close a little bit,
Mhm.
like they're teenagers, but it's like no, let's keep kids out of Mad Max. I mean, we got the wild child in Road Warrior, but you know that kid's knocking people's fingers off and stuff. So you know
Mhm.
they're a
Yeah.
participant in the action.
Mhm.
Yeah, Thunderdome's kind of the odd one out in the series. Just tonally, it feels a little friendlier.
Yeah.
Even the production design, it feels like it's reaching for the grandness of what we would get with like Fury Road, but it's doing it. It's just a little bit confused, a little bit muddled, and it also just I don't. It doesn't it doesn't exactly add up to a greater whole. Like it feels a little fragmented at times, if you ask me, where you have the titular Thunderdome, but then that's only a portion of the film. Like there's quite a lot of other things that happen in there. Um, but yeah, the Mad Max series of films is it's kind of incredible because like the cultural footprint of the Mad Max movies is staggering. Like it one of the single most influential aesthetic choices in cinema history, like in modern history. The look, the heavy metal vibe of the Road Warrior in particular has been aped and borrowed from by so many other productions, so much media in general over decades. Fist of the North Star is an anime and a manga from Tetsuo Hara, I think, or Buronson, from the 80s that owes everything. Like the story, not so much, but like the aesthetic of it owes everything to the existence of Mad Max and the work of George Miller.
Mhm.
Really incredible stuff. But Brad, it looks like you got some comments here. You want to jump in?
I'm not seeing the comments on my end.
No, I
You
mean like
better.
it looked like
Oh,
you had
oh,
some things you had to say.
oh. Well, I was just gonna say, this is a little unrelated to what you were saying at the end there, but um, you a little fun fact for you. Do you know what prominent movie critic Beyond Thunderdome was actually his favorite Mad Max movie? Any guesses?
uh, Roger Ebert.
You're close, but no cigar. It is Gene Siskel.
Damn,
He's the
it was the
quote.
bald one.
The quote on the back of Beyond Thunderdome says, "A series of films that just keeps getting better and better." So it must mean Beyond Thunderdome was his favorite. Unfortunately, he never got to see Fury Road. I mean, that'd be a real swerve if he lived to see Fury Road and then he said they don't get better and better. That'd be the real swerve. But um, yeah, I really like these movies. I guess here's a fun game for you. This is my classic example, and I don't know if we've ever discussed this, but we're talking physical media, so I don't know if you own the Road Warrior, Trevor. Do you have the Road Warrior?
No, actually, I don't own any of them with the exception of Fury Road. It is
Okay.
something that I would like to own someday, but curiously, a lot of those movies tend to be kind of pricey, actually. Like even to
Hmm.
this day, you would expect them to be like readily available in circulation, but the price tag on a lot of Mad Max movies tends to be fairly high.
Well, here's the question here. If you
Yo,
did own the Road Warrior, the question is where in your collection does this go? Because I
oh
mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
this says the Road Warrior. IMDb says Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior.
Hmm.
I believe in the film it says Mad Max 2. Like within the film itself, I think it does say Mad Max 2. I mean, that's tricky, and for me, I'll just tell you what I do. and you have to go with the classic rule. And I think it's always the tiebreaker. It hardly ever fails. And the rule is if it's on the spine, that's where it goes in line. So for me, it's got to go under R because if you're looking at your collection and you're in the M's and this is sticking out, R, what's going on here? So for me, it goes under R.
Yeah, for me, I would probably try to dodge the whole situation entirely and just get a box set or something that incorporates all of them.
That would
Um,
solve that issue. Yes. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
maybe I'll wait till Furiosa is out on physical and just get the whole ass box set.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what Brad's referencing here is the fact that Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior, that's the original title of the film, but for I think specifically North America, maybe just international releases, it was retitled to The Road Warrior,
Mm-hmm.
um, for marketing purposes, I guess. Um, but it was very effective in that most people you'll talk to refer to it as simply the Road Warrior.
Yeah.
You almost never, at least in America anyway, hear people refer to it as Mad Max 2. I mean, another way you could get around that is get an Australian Blu-ray that just has Mad Max 2 like on the
You
cover and
could.
on the spine.
You could do that. Now, the issue here is you could now some people might say, "Well, I'm just gonna put it with all the Mad Max movies. I'm just gonna put it because it's Mad Max 2. Why would I put it all the way in R?" Well, that's been fine for maybe the last 30, 40 years, sure, but now with Furiosa coming out,
Uh,
you gonna put that under M too, bud?
yeah.
You gonna put Furiosa there? I tell you what, it's a stressful thing. I've lost many hours of sleep over it, but I am happy with it in the R's. And when I buy Furiosa on physical media, I guarantee you it's going in the F's. No question about it.
Yeah, I think the official title puts Furiosa front and center, and then there's a colon in there, like it's a Mad Max story or something like that. Is the full title.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, your system for those movies, it works. I mean, it's kind of obnoxious that you got to jump around and whatnot, but it's a system. As long as you stick to it, as long as you're consistent, then it is in fact a system. It works for you, man.
Don't blame me. Blame the movies. Don't blame me. My hands are clean.
By the way, the cover of that Road Warrior disc is that's the best you got.
That's pretty bad. That's
That's
bad.
I gotta give you a single on that.
That's
What?
bad, man.
It's not even a good production photo of Mel.
No.
Like
No.
he looks confused. He looks like he's headed to craft services.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this. Very, very strange cover. Not great at all. But the movie rocks. So
Oh, it absolutely does. No, I adore the Road Warrior. It was that and Thunderdome were on cable very, very, very consistently when I was young.
yeah.
So I actually didn't see the movie front to back for quite a while. I saw it via like commercial breaks and like in snippets over a long period of time.
Hmm.
Um, and the first one, curiously enough, was like almost never on TV, as far as my memory recalls. But yeah, The Road Warrior is a kick-ass fucking movie. The daring cinematography and choreography of those vehicular action sequences, and just again the aesthetic charm of that style of production design and costuming it's incredible. Like George Miller has a knack for creating a world using like kind of like the bare minimum, like of exposition. Like I don't even know if some of that narration in that movie is actually in the original Australian version of the movie. It very well may not be, but they just kind of hit the pavement and just go, and you just kind of pick up the details as you go, and none of it's really important. That's what's kind of incredible is that
Hmm.
you get just enough information to get invested and care and know whose motivations are what, and then the rest of it's just raw energy. It's really incredible stuff. We have a comment here, by the way. Uh, let's see if I can throw it up there. Do you guys worry about physical media going away? From Rat Beard Fish Hook 86. Thank you for commenting, by the way. Brad, that's a very good question. Do you? Because my answer to that is I'm not at the point where I'm worried about it going away, but I'm kind of like in reverse about that because I collect old video games. It's another one of my collecting hobbies, and battery backups for save files on Super Nintendo cartridges, which came out in my lifetime, like in 1991 onward, basically from like 1991 to 1995 or six is when the Super Nintendo was being made and stuff. The save, like the watch batteries that are in those cartridges, are starting to die.
Mm.
Like the physical device within the cartridge is actually failing, and the same goes for optical media. Is that I don't know exactly what the shelf life is for an optical disc, but I do know that there is one. So there is going to be a day, I don't know if it'll happen in our lifetime, that you will put a disc in your player and it will be dead. It will cease to be able to be read by the laser anymore. So like I'm kind of in reverse thinking about like, oh, that could happen someday. I don't see physical media going away anytime soon. I think it's probably been a niche hobby for a very long time and is going to continue being a niche hobby. But you're seeing all these little boutique distributors pop up left and right. And it just seems like there's always going to be a corner for it. Like somebody's always going to be making it. It just won't be on the same scale. Like you might actually see like major studios stop doing it or something if it becomes less than profitable for them. But I don't think it's actually going to outright go away, um, not for a while anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I would mostly say I agree with you. I mean, it might be niche, but here's a little taste. That admittedly maybe it's not like the biggest number in the world, but here's a little like some people might be thinking like, man, nobody buys DVDs or Blu-rays anymore. Here's just a little taste for you. This is live. This is live statistics. You go on Blu-ray.com and you go in the forums, and there's a currently active user count. And right now, there are currently 5,746 people active in the Blu-ray.com forums right now. So,
Wow.
I mean, sure, like in the grand scheme of the world, that might not be a lot of people, but that is a pretty big number, I would say, that is on that site in the forums at this very moment. I mean, you got to think that the number of people that actually buy physical media is much larger than that alone. So, yeah, I think there is always going to be some market for it. And what would really scare me, I guess, like right now, I'm not scared. I mean, sure, I lose sleep over it at night, but that doesn't mean anything. I lost sleep over where the Road Warrior goes on my shelf. I lose sleep over everything. What would make me lose sleep over it is if some of these boutique labels started folding up. That's when I would get nervous. And it is worth noting. I don't know if you saw Trevor, but Criterion was just purchased. It has a new owner. Somebody purchased the Criterion collection. I don't know who he is. The guy who owns, if you know, Indian Paintbrush. It was a small film studio, I believe.
No, actually, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, he bought. I forget. Um, Let me see if I can get the details here. Criterion and Janus Films sell to Indian Paintbrush founder Stephen Rails.
Mm, that's
Um,
big. That's really
yeah,
big.
yeah. So I don't know really what that means, but it says the mission and leadership of the companies will not change following the private transaction. So yeah, I'm not worried. I do think like yeah, the bigger studios might slow down, and we've seen that to some extent. I mean, with certain movies not getting 4Ks and some movies not even getting like physical media releases at all. I mean, Barbarian is a great example of it. But I mean, I think as the major studios slow down, these smaller labels have been able to score up some some older films, but some bigger films and get the rights to publish them, like Vinegar Syndrome with Roadhouse. Good example there. Which is cool because they put out incredible stuff. So yeah, I think there's always going to be stuff to buy, and if they stop putting out like big studio movies, I mean, then I'm just gonna have to the barrel will get to the bottom more and more, but I'll keep buying. So I'm going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel and buying, uh, Mutant Puppets 4 on 4K from Vinegar Syndrome or something like that. So I'm always going to be buying.
You'll just keep buying You'll buy up every copy of Scanner Cop 1 and 2 that they have.
Yeah.
There you go. That's how we
Yeah.
save physical media. That's how we keep Vinegar Syndrome from folding.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people saying like, not I've maybe done this to a certain extent, but like how Disney put out the a few of the Star Wars Disney Plus shows on 4K,
Yeah.
and I saw a lot of people posting online and commenting, "Buy these so we show Disney that there is a market for this and we can get more." And it's like that is the kind of like civil action, like or instead of going out and marching for stuff that actually matters, like we're gonna buy these 4Ks. This is where we put our devotion. Like, I mean, it's sad, but it I'm not far off from it, so I guess.
Hey, I mean, nobody has control over what they care about and how they care about it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so, it is what it is. But yeah, I've probably been in the same camp. I've probably done the same harebrained thing myself. Shut up and take my money, Disney.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, I'm the guy who's consistently bitching about the Netflix Marvel shows like tapping out on putting out physical releases of all of them.
Mhm.
Like, folks at home, if you're not aware, um, they like the Netflix Marvel shows like Daredevil and Iron Fist, all that business. They stopped producing new discs for them after Iron Fist, so they didn't even make it to the Defenders. Like, they just gave up. They just, fuck it, we're done. So like stuff like that irritates me. But hey, I'm just a consumer. What? Who gives a shit? Um, anyway, I suppose the pick is to me. So I'm going to grab a Blu-ray here. That's you know kind of like your Road Warrior disc. It's nothing to look at for sure. Um, but I actually incorporated footage of this into an edit that I had to do very recently. I did it because somebody mentioned logistics. Somebody mentioned a film being like a vehicle for getting you, the viewer, like within a story from one place to another, essentially. And just that string of words, that sentiment made me think of this movie. So I was like, oh, I'll get kind of cute here and slip this into the edit, see if anybody gets the reference. I did see a couple of comments on the YouTube channel, like on the video that I had made, saying that people did get the reference. So that made me happy. Anyway, to dispel the mystery, I have here in my hand a film by William Friedkin, a fellow that I know you like, Brad, and you have many drops on your soundboard from, Sorcerer. And you better believe that is Roy Scheider's face there on the cover. And that actual caption there, the toughest, most relentless American film in a long time, that very well may be true. In fact, that may not be an understatement, because this is, in its own way, a very, very, very brutal film. It is very much like a procedural type endeavor, where it is logistics, the motion picture. It is getting some volatile chemicals from one place to another under very hazardous conditions. That's the plot, essentially. And in true William Friedkin style, they don't shy away from showing all the ugly details of it. Like, they really treat it like they really put you in the shoes of the people going about the endeavor. And this is a movie that I've known by reputation for a very long time. I only saw it for the first time, I think, within the past 2 years. I went out of my way to buy this Blu-ray because I couldn't find the movie, and I knew I wanted to see it just based on its reputation and its subject matter. And on top of that, there's one shot in particular that I'm sure you've seen if you haven't seen the movie, Brad, um, of a truck on a hanging bridge over rushing water, and a man just sitting in front of it looking miserable. As soon as I saw that still image, I was like, I need to see this movie. That is just such a striking, powerful image of just like defeat.
I
It's
can't
like
believe
this.
they didn't use that for the cover of the Blu-ray, because that's just such an iconic image, and it kind of sums up the movie way better than that cover does.
What the fuck does this? I mean, I guess the image is symbolic of part of the story, but it's not what the story's about, really. That's a sliver of the actual material of the film. Um, but yeah, Sorcerer, I'm so glad I went out of my way to watch and purchase. It is absolutely brutal experience for sure. It's not a fun watch, but there's something about just watching some really hardened individuals just kind of knuckle down and try to figure shit out. That we talked about this last time we talked, Brad. Just there's like some like elemental appeal to these kinds of stories about
Mhm.
people grappling with tough scenarios and whatnot, especially like downtrodden types, like people that are on the bottom rung of society, struggling in the most horrific ordeals imaginable, seemingly for futile reasons. Like just like it's a futile endeavor to begin with. But there's just something about it that's very, very relatable and very, very visceral. But hey, we have a comment here from Dario the Hungry, who I recognize from the Red Cow Entertainment Discord. What's up, Dario?
What's going on?
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. Hopefully, you're enjoying the discussion. Hopefully, we're not boring you to tears. Anyway, Brad, I didn't actually ask. Have you actually seen Sorcerer?
Yeah, well, let me tell you about this, Trevor. You might
Let
not
me
be
tell you
happy to
something, brother.
you, you might not be happy to know with this, but I have seen it, and it is a great film. I love it. Actually, I watched it for the first time. I believe it was right around when our good boy Billy Friedkin passed away. But
Yeah.
I had to do the double bill of Sorcerer and The Wages of Fear, which I have right
Mm.
here, which is the original version of the
Hmm.
story. And I gotta say, I loved them both. I actually think I preferred The Wages of Fear a little bit more. Um, and if you want to know why, you got to go back and listen to episode 319 of the Cinema Speak podcast because I don't remember why because it's locked in the episode. I don't remember why I like that one better. Something with I think the characters were a little stronger in The Wages of Fear, and it might have just been watching them like back to back. It's the second time you're watching Sorcerer, it's the same story, very similar, a lot of the same beats. But no, they're both great movies in their own way, and I do think um, Friedkin's movie is a little bit more visceral. Like it is, like there are some incredible sequences. And actually, I really love the opening of Friedkin's as well. The like showing how each of the men ended up in the South America or wherever it is.
Yeah, they give
Um,
you just enough.
mhm,
Where like
yeah.
they don't paint the whole picture. They just give you the inciting incident, and then they're gone.
Yep.
And then we end up in South America.
Mhm. Yeah, but no, they're both very good. And I don't own Sorcerer. Is that I don't know why I don't own it. Is that disc like rare or out of print or
I don't think it's either of those things. It could be out of print. It definitely, I had to go out of my way to find it. Like I think this was an eBay purchase because it was tricky to track down.
yeah, doesn't look like it's out of print, so
Okay.
that's on me. That is on me.
Yeah, it's just a humble Warner Brothers disc. There's no bells or whistles attached to it, but the transfer's fine. Like
Mhm.
it's a finely produced disc, but it really didn't get like the the blue ribbon treatment or anything like that. But I'm so glad you brought up the Wages of Fear. I totally forgot that Sorcerer is in fact a remake. And there's a podcast of a couple of people that I collaborated with a couple of times. I was never on their show, but we had them on a couple times. The Movies for Life podcast, Brian and Michelle. I think they actually did a double feature podcast review of both films, and I seem to remember them agreeing with you that they're both excellent films, but they gave the edge to Wages of Fear. Although I have no doubt that Friedkin's is probably the more brutal between the two.
Yeah. It's got to be up there in terms of like best, double like pair of original and remake, like where both of them are like bangers. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
yeah,
That's up there.
yeah. That gets a nod from me for sure.
Yeah.
That's an
I
excellent fucking remake.
I've never seen the original, like the thing from another world, so I don't know if I'd say that one. But
I think I would give the edge to Carpenter on that.
yeah, yeah,
They're both good for sure.
yeah.
It's just they're from you know kind of similar to Invasion of the Body Snatchers. They're from radically different eras.
Yep, yep. I would say I prefer the '70s Body Snatchers by not a lot, but I would say by a hair. But I grew up on that one, so it gets pretty sizable edge just on that. But they're both great movies. So
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that. I kind of grew up on it as well. Like that was a dad watch. That was
yeah,
one where I was like 11 or 12 or something, and dad was like, "Hey, you want to see some cool shit?" It's like,
yeah,
yeah, this isn't gonna fuck me up forever, Dad. Thanks.
yeah,
No, it's such a amazingly well made film. Just the opening sequence alone just kind of like tells you like, oh, this is some of that filmmaking shit. Like
hmm
this is some next level production quality.
yeah. And I don't remember how old I was when I saw it, but it's got to be up there in terms of like when I seen it, I saw it fairly young, I think, and being a downer of an ending, like it's That certainly wasn't, Despicable Me 3 or anything like that. Um,
I never kept up with those. I only saw the first
yeah.
one, but my mom thinks the minions are cute. I don't know if that's worth sharing or not. I should
I don't
probably.
mind the Minions, I'll be honest. They've
Yeah, I
grown on
don't
me.
I don't know if she's actually ever seen any of those movies, but for what it's worth. By the way, we have another comment here from Dario the Hungry. Body Snatchers is a classic and definitely prefer Carpenter. So it sounds like Mr. Dario concurs with both of our sentiments. Um, but yeah, that was Sorcerer. It's about some people driving trucks through the jungle, and that's all I'm going to say because I think it really is worth watching. But this is actually an occasion where I know we said we were going to play fast and loose with the theming today for the theme of the discussion today, but this actually is a movie that's entirely. I mean, for fuck's sake, spoilers. The title comes from the name of one of the trucks. So it is entirely a vehicular film in every respect.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is a good pick. That is a solid.
No, it worked out really well because it fit the theme, and like I said, Dario may even be aware of this. I slipped a clip of it into a Red Cow video that I edited not too long ago. So hopefully you enjoyed it there, Dario. Anyway, so that was my pick. Ball is to you, Sir Brad. What is your next Valiant Vehicle film?
Well, my next pick is from a franchise where there are numerous examples of, vehicles, and you could pick maybe any movie from that franchise. I'm sure there's some vehicle in every entry, but I went with one that maybe isn't something that jumps to people's mind initially, but this was the first one I thought of when thinking of this franchise and vehicles. And it is the James Bond 007 franchise. And let's play a little game. Trevor, you're a Bond head.
Yep.
What movie do you think I pulled for my Bond vehicle? I only pulled one.
Okay. So I actually do not recall. Full disclosure, folks at home, dear listeners, hopefully viewers. Um, Brad and I often talk about the Bond films, and yet somehow I can't recall what your personal taste in Bond films
hmm
is, like who your Bond is. Actually, that's going to be a follow up question, so be right for that. Like who's your guy? Who you got? But I do know that you're slightly younger than me, which in theory would mean that bonds that were contemporary to you and your upbringing perhaps resonate on some level, potentially. So I'm going to say Tomorrow Never Dies, the backseat driver sequence.
That is a great guess, an amazing guess, in fact, but it is wrong.
Fuck.
And this one,
Podcast over.
you were trying to think which ones do I like. You were off on that. Which ones did I grow up with? You were off on that. Which one is my Bond? You were off on that. No, what it really, I don't know why this one came to mind, but when I went and was going through and watching them all before No Time to Die came out, I went with The Man with the Golden Gun, and I didn't even remember which movie the vehicle moment was from. I had to Google it, but
Oh
I'm
my god, Brad,
specifically
you did the slide whistle.
the slide whistle.
The
Yes,
slide whistle.
the slide whistle. Which okay, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Listen, it is the slide whistle is terrible. I think it's so stupid, but the actual stunt is pretty cool. Like it's
It
really
is.
great.
It is.
For those that don't know, it's like a corkscrew spin. Like there's a ramp over. There's like two ramps over a river, And I don't remember if there is there any explanation why those ramps are there. I don't even remember. Like if there's
Absolutely not. The
yeah
Dukes of Hazzard was probably on TV
yeah
contemporary to the film, and car stunts for the shit. So
yep.
let's do it.
And I do believe, if I'm remembering right, this is the one where it's like Roger Moore and then the like the sheriff, like the southern sheriff is in the car with him, I believe, right?
Boss Hog, you mean?
Yeah, Boss Hog. And he's like, "Don't do it, don't do it." And he's like, "I have to." And he goes over this ramp, and the car does this corkscrew in the air and lands, and it's cool. But again, yeah, they do kill it because as it does the corkscrew, there's a slide whistle sound effect. And it's like, huh? Um, but no, I do really like that stunt. And when I was thinking like, I was like Bond car stuff, and there are certainly better ones. But I thought of that stunt for some reason, and I feel like a lot of people don't like this one. From what I could tell, I actually think it's pretty good. Like it's not amazing, but I do like Christopher Lee as the villain. I like going to his like island compound at the end. And I can't remember what's the name of his sidekick in this.
Well, was he like Tattoo in the
Tattoo.
Fantasy
Yeah, yeah,
Island?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember if that was his name in that or Fantasy Island, but it's the
I
same
I
actor.
believe it was fantasy. I think it was Fantasy
I
Island, but
think it was Fantasy
yeah, but
Island.
he's fun in this. Like I don't know. I enjoyed this one. I think I like this one more than most people.
Yeah, I like it too. I wouldn't say it's one of the better ones, but it is very, very, very memorable. Not a huge fan of the theme song. It's a little too psychedelic for a Bond theme, if you ask me. Although the brass is a lot of fun, and it incorporates the melody of the song, not the song itself, with the lyrics and the vocals and stuff.
Yeah.
But the melody of the song incorporates very well into the score for the film. I like that aspect of it. The location's pretty fun in Southeast Asia. That very Indiana Jones esque predates Indiana Jones, predates the Indiana Jones revolver versus saber gag with the head kick to the guy bowing.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
It's beautiful. It's a fun one, and the fun house at the end of the movie, and also bookends the movie. That's a fun little fake out
Hmm.
thing. Um, it's not a terrible Bond, but it Santino on your show, Brad, the Cinema Speak podcast. Check it out, dear listeners, and hopefully viewers. Brad has his own podcast. It's the Cinema Speak podcast. Just last week, you had Santino on the show, and he was talking about Godzilla movies. Now, I've often used the turn of phrase Godzilla is the Japanese James Bond, in that both characters are long lived franchise figures that also happen to change with they influence and change with the times. They
Hmm.
always change. They reshape and remold themselves to fit whatever era they currently are existing in. And as a result, you see a lot of trend setting and also trend following simultaneously in a lot of Godzilla and James Bond movies. Long story short, what I'm trying to get to here is that Santino mentioned that he had seen Godzilla versus the Smog Monster for the first time. Uh, Maybe not the first time, but he had seen that movie and he described it as really fucking psychedelic and off the wall, batshit crazy. And I think of Man with the Golden Gun as the equivalent of Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, where it's just like there was a lot of cocaine and pills on the sets of both of these films.
Yeah.
And we got what we got. It's very memorable as a result. Maybe not the best, but you remember it. You don't forget that shit. By the way, we have a couple of comments here from Rat Beard Fish Hook 86, who is here to tell us that Roger Moore was the best Bond. Straight up pimp. I do quite like Roger Moore. I'm not sure if he's my favorite Bond. That's debatable on my end, but I do enjoy quite a lot of his movies. And he also had not the longest tenure, but I think he made the most movies. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
he
think
has
you're
the
right.
largest sample size. I think the longest tenure might actually be Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
Um, Moore is great. I hold Brosnan as my fave, says Dario, the Hungry. I don't know why I'm saying all the names of these people like they're characters from Bloody Roar, but Dario, the Hungry, Rat Beard Fish, Hook, 86. Fuck Timothy Dalton, though. I disagree. I do disagree with that sentiment. I actually quite like Timothy Dalton as Bond. I would have liked to have seen him get another chance, another at bat as Bond. Um, but
Two
sadly,
strikes, you're out. Two strikes, you're out. Sorry.
I mean, I guess he got more than Lazenby, and Lazenby, for his part, he wasn't bad. Like that movie is kind of an outlier in that it went into some subject matter that not every Bond was willing to do, especially back
Hmm.
then. But I like Dalton actually. I quite liked his intensity. The problem with Dalton to me was the era itself. Was we were in the steroid era of action heroes. We were into Martin Riggs and John McClane and any Arnold Schwarzenegger character you want to name, like John Matrix, for instance, from Commando. Even the score of License to Kill is done by Michael Kamen, who did Lethal Weapon and Die Hard. Like that was a low point for James Bond, wherein James Bond was no longer setting the trends; he was responding to them, and as a result, it came across as just kind of like a lame like sub tier like action film surrounded by bigger, heavier hitters of the time. So he was the character itself, the franchise itself was floundering, and I don't attribute the failure of it to Dalton himself. I thought as a performer, I've always liked him as an actor, and I think he had something. I think he was onto something. He just didn't really get a chance to flex his muscles. Brad, thoughts? I've been talking for a long time. I need some air.
Yeah, I don't. It's tough for me to say who my favorite Bond is, because at the earliest age, I grew up with Pierce Brosnan, so he kind of are always in my mind has that like just connection. But I don't think I'd say he's my favorite. So it really is tough. And I think if you go based on the movies, I think I would easily say Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
But if you're going based on the actor and just Bond himself, I don't know. I honestly I could make an argument for any of them, to be totally honest. So I'm staying out of it. Sorry.
Yeah, I know that's a shitty middle of the road way of handling it, but I'm in the same boat. They all have their strengths. Everybody's a winner. You're all winners, says the dumb lady from Seinfeld. Yeah, unfortunately, that's me. The Bond, they're all winners.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just interesting to see everybody do a different take on it, and yeah, I don't think anybody's really to be fair, I have not seen the Timothy Dalton ones. I
Oh,
don't
you
think at
haven't?
all.
Really?
Maybe a little bit on TV or whatever, but, when I was doing my rewatch, or my initial watch, whatever you wanna call it, through all of
Yeah.
them, I didn't make it to the Timothy Daltons. I got burnt out on A View to a Kill. So
Didn't work for you?
yeah, that one wasn't my favorite. Great theme though,
I
great
was
theme.
about to say, I know you appreciate the theme.
Banger theme. No, I would say though, best theme song, I have a clear winner, and that would be, "Nobody Does It Better" from The Spy Who Loves Me.
Really?
I love that song. That song is amazing.
That is wow, that's an unconventional pick, sir.
Yeah, I
I
think that is a great
actually
one.
I've never liked that one. Something about the flow, the cadence of the chorus always like nobody does it better. It feels like dial-up modem or something. Like something's it's like something's crashing mid song or something. That's me though, and music is a very personal thing. So that's really cool. But yeah, folks at home, if you're not aware, Duran Duran did the theme to A View to a Kill. I do think it's funny that the chorus of that one just dance into the fire.
Yeah, yeah.
I like how occasionally they run into situations where it's like, oh, we can't call it that. Where it's like Octopussy, for instance.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, like are we gonna publish a track called Octopussy?
Yeah, it's not
I
gonna
don't
get
think
radio
so.
airplay.
Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, in conclusion, all the Bonds are winners. I think that's worth championing. That the fact that I don't think we've actually had a bad Bond. I think Lazenby is for a very long time was thought of as because he only had the one movie, people just assumed he was the bad one. It's like, no, if you watch that movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service, he's okay. He's not terrible. It's a pretty decent Bond. In fact, No Time to Die owes a lot to it in a lot of
Mhm,
respects, and
mhm.
I've heard a lot of other cinephile types like quietly praise it over the years.
Oh,
So
yeah. I
these
mean,
days it's well regarded, but when I
it
was a kid, everybody hated it. Everybody stayed away from it.
if you wanna seem cool nowadays, that is the movie to say is the best Bond. Like, if you wanna seem like the cool hip, like, filmmaking, like, you're in the know,
Yeah,
that's what you say. You say, "On Her Majesty's Se" actually, On Her
yeah,
Majesty's Service is the best Bond movie, alright?
yeah.
Mhm.
Actually, yeah, that's the hipster take. Like,
But I wouldn't go that far, but I do like it a lot.
no, it's a good Bond. Like
Yeah.
I like basically all the Bonds. Like it's a tough discussion to have because of that. I'm biased, but we have another comment here from Ratbeard Fish Hook 86. The Skyfall underwater leg choke, excuse me, made that movie. Um, yeah, that was a pretty cool moment. That movie, the cinematography is mostly what makes it for me.
Yeah.
I just love looking at it. Actually, as a film, like as a whole, I was in the minority in that I didn't particularly love it. Like it made so much goddamn money and everybody loved it, and that theme song was inescapable. But
Yeah.
I walked out of it thinking it was pretty good. Like I liked it, I didn't love it, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I agree, but I would say, Casino Royale is my favorite of the recent Bonds still. I
Casino Royale is a beast of a movie. Like
love that movie.
it's just staggering how excellent so many sequences in that movie are. I know that it gets bogged down with the card game stuff for sure. Like the pacing gets a little fucked up there, but when it's on, it's you can't top it. Like the execution of so much of the action and the performances in that one are just totally dialed in.
Listen, I love poker, so I coulda used more of that card stuff, okay? Coulda used more. I love poker.
I like how they switched it to poker because nobody knows how to play baccarat.
It
I
was
don't.
smart. Smart filmmaking.
I mean, they need it's film is a language. You need to make sure that people understand the visual information you're presenting to them, and also
Mhm.
it helps that you have a silver fox over there in the corner that can whisper like he's doing this because he wants to win. He just did a thing that's going to prevent him from winning. Oh
Yeah.
shit. Like, I'll keep cutting away to that man to tell all the mouth breathers in the audience what's happening in the game.
It helps, it does help.
It's sometimes you need that.
Mhm.
Sometimes you need a silver fox over at the bar to tell you what's going on. Anyway, so I suppose the pick is to me. So I guess I need to hunt for a pick real quick here. So that was Bond Talk. Good podcast, Brett.
It was fun.
Yeah, it's a fun one. So what are we gonna go with? What's it gonna be? Okay, I'm gonna pull something stupid because you just did something fairly classy. So it's time for something stupid. Uh, so I have here in my hand a Universal Blu-ray, another just kind of like bare bones disc, but that's not important. Um, of a film that I've seen an inordinate number of times that I would probably like to do for the podcast someday, although I do not believe Kyle would ever allow that to happen. Anyway, I have here in my hands Black Dog, starring Patrick Swayze, Randy Travis, and you better believe that's Meatloaf. Uh, he's
Nice.
he's not the chief antagonist of the film, but he's the muscle in the movie. He pops up from time to time to yell and shoot at people and stuff. Black Dog is a semi truck based action film. So this is about Patrick Swayze who takes a sketchy semi truck, like long haul trucking job. Um, he takes a job from sketchy people and he ends up transporting guns on their behalf. And also, he has like a criminal record because he accidentally ran somebody over or something. So basically, he's like inadvertently wrapped up in like an arms trafficking situation. And then along the way, some people want to hijack the rig, hijack the guns and stuff that he's hauling, and of course he has to fend them off. So it's like Roadhouse on wheels. Is probably how it was pitched, honestly, and right down to like the casting of like lots of country stars in there. Like I don't think Randy Travis is the only one in there. I'm pretty sure he's probably the most high profile one, but there's most certainly others. I mean,
You
Meatloaf
got
kind
you
of
got
falls.
Clint Black in there? Is Clint Black in there?
I'm looking at the back of the box right now, and I wouldn't know these names. Actually, the two big names that are they have nothing to do with country music or anything, but like two of the big names that jumped out at me in the cast here, Charles S. Dutton, I believe, has a small role, And Stephen Tobolowsky, Tobo himself. We all love Tobo. He's in here as well. I think they play like ATF agents or something. But yeah, this movie is dumb as shit. It's not even exceptional in any real regard, other than the novelty factor of what it is. There aren't that many of these kinds of movies that existed in its era. Like this is a 1998 film, I believe. Like this is kind of like a a low stakes, fairly small scale country action film. Not something that we were getting a whole lot of, and honestly, don't ever get a whole lot of anymore. Um, but it was on cable all the fucking time when I was young, and I watched it. I gobbled it up. So I've seen this movie a lot of fucking times. It's never amazing, but it's always somewhat enjoyable, and it fits the theme because most of the movie does take place on the road, driving a big old fucking like truck. We got another comment here, just from like regarding the previous conversation. I like Craig enough, and there were highlights overall that and take the overall. I'll take the campier. Gotcha. So Brad, any thoughts on Black Dog?
I mean, this is the first I am hearing about it, but I will say R.I.P. to Meatloaf, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now is the action in there like is it actual like with the semi trucks like truck action like okay.
Yeah, yeah, they're actually driving down the country roads. Sometimes it's truck on truck violence. There's a sequence involving motorcycles, like motorcyclists jumping on the truck. So you have fist fights, you have gunfights, you have driving stunts, you have some killer crashes, like some pretty spectacular crashes and whatnot. On the whole, it's not a shoddy production by any means. It's just like
Yeah.
it's kind of cute, like how kind of small and intimate the film is. Like it's a little bit cheesy too. Like it very much has a little bit of its tongue and like planted inside of its cheek.
Yeah, there's definitely a market for trucker-based action films. It is surprising that there's a good number of them. I mean, I'm just thinking, we covered the Hurricane Heist. That ends with a truck chase, and I haven't seen it, but I believe it is a Netflix movie. Liam Neeson's The Ice Road.
Oh, isn't that getting like a sequel or something?
I'm sure it is.
I know he's done more than one trucker film.
What's the other one? I'm trying to think.
I I know the one is the one that you mentioned, the ice trucker thing, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there's like a sequel on the way. There's also the remake he did of the Scandinavian film that's about a snowplow driver.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Cold Pursuit.
Cold Pursuit, thank you. I owned that movie very briefly and then sold it because
Mm,
I decided, oh, I will never watch this again.
yeah, you're right. Ice Road 2, Road to the Sky.
I know my shit. Operative word shit.
Nice. Can't wait.
Yeah,
But
we all can't wait for that.
let's I mean, it's going to be tough to come up with a sequel to Black Dog. I guess I should say it's not as recent, but RIP to Patrick Swayze as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah.
so
Charles S. Dutton too. I think he passed away a long time ago.
well, listen, we could go through every single movie we talk about and talk about all the people that died.
A lot of people died,
I
Trevor.
believe Randy Travis is still kicking though. I believe.
Randy Travis and Tobo. Stephen
Yeah.
Tobolowsky, he's very much alive and kicking. We love
Yeah.
Tobo.
Yeah.
I wish he was a friend of the show. Tobo seems like such a cool guy.
He does seem pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
the sequel to Black Dog, actually, I would totally watch that. Starring Scott Adkins. Sign me the fuck up.
they should do a sequel to Black Dog, and they should instead of having Meatloaf because they can't, they should have Robert Plant, and they should play the Led Zeppelin song "Black Dog." That should be the theme.
It's funny because they absolutely couldn't afford him, although maybe they could because he seems like he's down to clown when it comes to whatever stupid horse shit you throw his way. But that jelly roll guy that's
Oh
everywhere these
yeah,
days, he would be in Black Dog too.
yeah. He's down to clown, dude. Absolutely, he
jelly
is
roll,
everywhere.
jelly roll as the villain of Black Dog too.
I'd
Fuck
love to
yeah,
see that.
that'd be hilarious. You know, if somebody out there needs to know about that because that just writes itself.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, we don't have to go into any more about Black Dog, but that was my pick. I actually had one that I easily could have pulled up, and it would have made a very seamless transition away from Bond. Um, but maybe I'll save that for the speed round, being as it's a pretty obvious pick. But Brad, what is your next Valiant vehicle selection?
Well, buckle up because it's about to get weird. Anybody who is watching currently, I challenge you to stick with this, and I'll be very proud of you because I'm going out. We're past left field. We're out. We're not even in the stadium anymore. We're out in the parking lot with this one. Because these are not action movies, but they feature some weird car scenes, and I'm going to talk about two of them. They are very different films, but they are somewhat similar. Uh, I have David Cronenberg's Crash, and I'm going to follow that up with Ridley Scott's The Counselor. So,
Oh no!
yes,
Oh
absolutely
no!
yes. Trevor, first of all, I know you know about Crash. Do you know about The Counselor? Do you know what car scene I'm going to talk about?
There's a reason I said "oh no" because folks at home, strap yourselves in. It's about to get loud and wet.
Let's
Yeah, I
go.
that's a very very early review in catching up on cinema history. That's
Oh,
like
really?
single digits maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Kyle picked that one. He was very excited to get into it, and one of the few comments I've gotten on my YouTube videos, one of them was somebody saying, "I the movie lost me when that car thing happened." So I was like, "Are you fucking serious? That was something. Like it made me invested. It didn't make me shy away from the experience." But yeah, Brad, I'll let you take the floor. What could possibly have happened involving cars and the counselor that has you so excited to connect it to Crash?
Well, I mean, I guess just Cameron Diaz. She fucks a car. She has sex with a car. She takes off her underwear, gets up on the hood on the windshield, and proceeds to just you know uh, rub herself up and down while Javier Bardem watches.
Touching and
Um,
rubbing.
yeah, and this is all told through Javier Bardem's narration. He's telling it to Michael Fassbender. It's a weird movie. It's a weird scene, but it is memorable.
Yeah, Cormac
Um,
McCarthy. He's an odd one.
yeah, so it is written by Cormac McCarthy, who is a novelist who wrote the novels for Old No Country for Old Men, The Road. I'm sure many others. I don't know if this is his first screenplay. I don't know if it's his only screenplay, but it's a weird movie. I'm not gonna say I like it. I'm not gonna say I dislike it. Because I know when I first watched it, I couldn't really get into it. But and I've really only watched it a couple times since then. But I do think there's something here, and it's a candidate for force feed. Like I'm gonna force myself to like this. It's written in a very like, you know, writerly way. Like people talk, they speak in ways that normal people don't. It's like all very, eloquent and hard to follow what is being said. The plot is very like fuzzy. It's hard to keep track of what is happening. But there are moments like that scene where she has sex with a car that just stick with you, and it certainly has stuck with me. And I think Javier Bardem, his description of it is very like I love his performance. I think it's very funny. His reactions to when we see it happening, his reactions are very funny. And if you want to get serious, there is I do remember there is the one scene where they put a cable across a highway road and decapitate a motorcyclist, which is pretty cool.
It's a few depacketations in that movie.
Yeah,
Few decapitations, excuse me.
like
Depacktation is a catching up on cinemaism. I didn't misspeak.
the moments of violence are pretty great. Like I yeah, I like those moments in Ridley Scott's direction. It's not a perfect film, does not work in its entirety, but there are things I really like about it. So it's worth checking out if you like. I remember when it came out, people were kind of dogging on it, and I think that's a little unfair. I think if you go in and give it a chance, there's some good stuff here. It may be a mess, but I think there's some good stuff here.
Yeah, no, I think I enjoyed my time with the counselor. I thought I agree with you wholeheartedly about the style of dialogue, about the writing. It is very it's very unnatural in a lot of ways. It probably reads better on the page than coming out of people's mouths. But you kind of work your way into it at some point, and then, as Brad said, there's a lot of shocking things that happen in the movie that kind of buoy the experience from time to time.
Mhm.
Um, For some reason, whenever I picture Javier Bardem in that movie, I keep picturing David Schwimmer in his stead. Just something about the hair and about how exuberant he
Kinda
is in that
I can
movie.
kinda see it right there,
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
give you the single so you can highlight it.
That's
Yeah,
Schwimmer-esque right there. A little Nick it's
pivot.
almost like a mix of Nick Cage and David Schwimmer in a way, like,
Yeah,
it
the
yeah,
way the light is falling on his jowls there does
yeah,
look Cagian for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, you're onto something there. But yeah, no, I enjoyed the counselor. Ridley Scott, right?
Yep, yep, yeah,
Yeah, no, it has strengths to it. I don't know if I love it, but Fassbender really goes for broke a couple times in that movie. There's one sequence towards the end that both Kyle and I still reference to this day when it comes to like somebody expressing grief physically on camera.
mhm.
Like this is the bar. Like reach for that bar because Mr. Fassbender pulled it off.
Yep, yep. Yeah, it's a weird one. I mean, it somehow managed to make a $71 million. I remember being a box office flop. It made $71 million worldwide, so
I
they
mean, I
did
know Ridley Scott's name carries quite a lot of weight
yeah,
to international audiences in particular.
mhm.
But yeah, I remember hearing bad things about it too when it came out. So I'm kind of surprised it made that much money.
Yeah, it did good. And then the other one is the David Cronenberg's Crash, not the Best Picture winner. But this one about people who um, get turned on by car crashes, and they kind of gets into the underground world of people who, yeah, they seek out car crashes for sexual gratification and cause car crashes, and it's another weird one, but I do like it, and there are some great scenes. Probably for me, the highlight is a scene where Elias Koteas simulates James Dean's tragic um, car crash, and he does it in front of a crowd. Does it with no helmet on, no safety measures. I mean, within the scene, obviously, but no, it's a weird film. It's a good film, but it's definitely one that has grown on me. I guess when I first watched it, I was maybe a little young, didn't totally get it, but I've since I don't love it, but I've since come around on it, and I think it's quite good.
Yeah, that was kind of that's kind of what's kept me from watching it actually. Is that like the general reputation of it is kind of I don't know, it's nobody's favorite Cronenberg, I'll just say that
Mm.
much. But I'm at a stage in my life where I'll watch anything with his name attached to it, honestly. So I would love to get to it someday. But yeah, I absolutely know it by reputation. I know of a select handful of scenes here and there that's kind of infamous for, but it sounds like it's very readable. Like it doesn't sound like an arcane film or something that's like difficult to like find your way into. It just sounds like maybe on the whole it's just not his best effort or something.
Yeah, I would say it's just there's not much like in terms of the plot or like there's no it really is just kind of what happens is the guy James Spader, he gets in a car accident, and he gets in a car accident with Holly, is it Holly Hunter or Helen
I think
Hunt?
that's right. Helen Hunt, Holly
Holly
Hunter.
Hunter. Holly Hunter. He gets in a car wreck with Holly Hunter, who immediately right after the car accident pulls her breast out. And he's like, "What's going on? Huh? What?" And so then he kind of gets, falls into this world of,
He gets those wires crossed.
yeah, um, yeah, and it really, I mean, yeah, like in terms of what it's getting at, like there are some things you can maybe say are open to interpretation, but it's easy enough to follow. It's just there's no like, it's not like you got you know Nicolas Cage or Javier Bardem playing the sheriff of the town who's trying to shut down these people getting these car wrecks. There's no nothing like that in terms of the conflict. So I would say that's where it's maybe difficult to get into, and it is pretty. I mean, explicit. It is NC-17, I believe. So it is. I mean, if you want to see some stuff, you're gonna see some stuff in this.
Like, not to make a thing out of it, but being as you're like in the midst of like kind of you're at the end of your road essentially, like rewatching or watching all of his films, correct?
Yeah, I've got one more to go.
Yeah. Brad's made a project out of that, by the way, of watching all of David Cronenberg's films, and he's, as he said, got one more to go before he's taken them all in and has an opinion on all of them. Like, am I wrong in thinking that like antagonists or like opposing forces, like looming threats and stuff like that, aren't necessary? They aren't really a big thing in his movies. It's mostly internal problems or like escalating addictions or like bad habits and things of that nature that people succumb to essentially rather than like an external force bearing down on them or something.
I would say the majority of his movies, yes, but there are examples of where there's a straight up villain. Scanners has a villain.
History of violence,
History of Violence, Eastern Promises, you could
same
maybe
deal. Yeah,
argue, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, majority of his films are more of an internal sort of struggle, or a struggle, with the body, something like that, like The Fly,
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that is a good point, and yeah, this one feels like a Cronenberg movie, but it is not like a horror film or anything. It's certainly a little more fits in with some of his later work better than his, body horror stuff.
Very fascinating guy with a very fascinating filmography. I would like to go down the same path you did and just go front to back, just like watch everything he's ever made.
And
Because
he's got a new one coming out this year too.
oh, really?
Hmm.
That's incredible.
Yeah, good for. And this is a little off topic, but people have been posting. When his movie was at the Cannes Film Festival,
Yeah,
and he was, they every movie gets a standing ovation, so he's getting a standing ovation, and he pulls out these like really weird looking sunglasses, like almost like I don't know if you in the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, those glasses they wear in the TV room or whatever.
I've never seen it, but I can. I've seen commercials for it, so I think I know what you're talking about.
Similar vibe, and
Okay.
somebody pointed out that like the last and maybe the only I don't know the last few times he's had a film premiere at the festival, he's worn the exact same glasses. So those are his like Cannes Film Festival glasses, which is pretty amazing.
It's funny. I have theories about stuff like that. Like where it comes from in my mind is Macho Man Randy Savage, as he had his Macho Man
Mhm.
sunglasses, and he was known for cutting promos and Macho Man Randy. His hands would go like this, Brad. Oh yeah, I'm the cream of the crop. Yeah,
Mhm.
and he would be doing all this, but he'd usually have his shades on, and he'd like very strategically to punctuate points, like take them off and like stare directly in the camera. But I think part of the reason he had those glasses is because he was thinking. He was like finding his words and stuff. So he was like masking his emotions and masking his thought
Yeah,
process.
yeah, that
I
makes
wouldn't be
sense.
surprised if Cronenberg or people like that are doing that because like maybe they're getting emotional or maybe they don't want people to see them reacting like to a fucking standing ovation and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
That's a very powerful thing that probably puts you in a sensitive space.
Hmm.
So, maybe it's to protect himself a little bit.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's a good thought.
Just a theory.
Yeah.
Anyway, goddamn, Brad, you keep giving me good movies. And here I am busting out Black Dog.
I mean,
So,
the counselor, a lot of people would say is not good. So don't go too
okay,
overboard.
okay, okay. So yeah, we're on the even keel here. So let me see. What's my next pick here? Uh, So I've got a big fucking stack of movies here. That was a bad move. Milk was a bad choice. Okay. so, trying to go unconventional because Brad and I have been doing the show for a while, and I try to mix it up when I can, just because it probably gets tiresome having to talk about the same movies over and over and over and over again. So I'm going to pull up a film just based on the director that you just mentioned, Brad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you know roughly where to be searching in your mind right now. So this one involves motorcycles. The whole movie doesn't involve motorcycles, but there is a motorcycle featured prominently in the finale of the movie. And this is Black Rain. as directed by Ridley Scott. And
Oh,
as you
wow,
can see
okay.
here on the cover, you have Andy Garcia, Michael Douglas, Ken Takakura, who's like a was like a national treasure of Japanese cinema. He's the man who doesn't emote. That was his shtick. He was a tough Japanese man that was very unreadable, but kind of like effortlessly funny at the same time, especially in this movie. Performing in English for the most part, by the way, and also Kate
Mm.
Capshaw's in here, by the way. Random Kate Capshaw. Not exactly a dense filmography on her part, as far as I'm aware, but yeah, this is a movie that she did. Um, this movie is infamous in Ridley Scott's filmography because it was shot in Osaka, in Japan, and he hated making it. He has gone on record saying he likely will never shoot in Japan again because of the regulations surrounding shooting in that region. Apparently, they were breathing down his neck all the time and uh, bearing down on him and preventing him from doing a lot of the things the way that he wanted to do them. So the experience of making the film was a problem for Ridley Scott. For what it's worth, I don't think this is an amazing film by any means. It has like a neo noir kind of vibe to it. It benefits quite a lot from the location, from the setting in Japan. Um, Also, Michael Douglas is. I mean, he's got the long hair. He's got the leather jacket. This is pimp ass Michael Douglas. Like this is prime Douglas. If you're into that sort of thing, I know I am. Uh, so it has things to offer. It's nobody's finest hour, though. Very unfortunately, and I would be remiss if I didn't point out that Yusaku Matsuda plays the antagonist of this film. He's a Japanese actor who I've brought up a few times on the podcast. He's kind of like a personal style icon of mine. He was very big in the late 70s and into the early 80s. He was actually not photo scanned because he had already passed away. But his likeness was borrowed for the PlayStation 2 game Onimusha 2. So his aesthetic, his image, his personality, like carried on beyond his years. Like after his passing, they were still using his likeness in video games, and he's still referenced as like a cultural icon of sorts, kind of like a James Dean, I guess. Also died young. What I'm trying to get to here is that this was his last film. He was suffering from, I think, gallbladder cancer while they were making the film. He was in a lot of pain. He was losing weight, but I guess kind of similar to Raul Julia on fucking Street Fighter. He committed to the bit and he made it through to the end of the production. Unfortunately, he did pass away. Um, and this was his first English language film, which was tragic because he really was just a magnetic acting presence. Like he amazing actor in so many respects, and not that many of his movies exist in English translation. Like, not many of them have been distributed outside of Japan. We're only just now starting to see some of them find their way over here. At least, like some of the more niche ones. Like he was in large scale productions, like large scale Japanese films, like Family Game, Kazoku Game. That it's a very well known Japanese film that absolutely found its way over here a long time ago. But a lot of his more like exploitation film type stuff only exists in Japan, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, as far as vehicular stuff, there's a motorcycle chase at the end of this film that's pretty fun. It's a nifty little chase. I like the conclusion of it quite a lot. And it is bolstered quite mightily by a very early Hans Zimmer score. This is
Mm.
late 80s Hans Zimmer, and quite a lot of it is using synthesizers. I love his theme for this movie. It's kind of the theme of the relationship between Michael Douglas and Ken Takakura. But the action cue that plays over the bike chase is fucking, it's a banger. Unfortunately, there's an unused version of it that exists on like the expanded version of the soundtrack for the film that I think is vastly superior. I have it saved on my hard drive because I love it so much, but it's not actually in the finished film, which fucking stings a little bit. But yeah, if you're into early Hans Zimmer scores, that is like one of the standout things that you can find in this film. But yeah, that's Black Rain.
Yeah, I almost didn't recognize it based on the cover of that Blu-ray.
It's a shitty cover.
Yeah, but then when I looked it up, I did recognize the poster because I saw that Blu-ray. I was like, what? I don't know what the. Is this a fake movie? Did you get scammed, man? Is this some of your,
It
like,
it
import
makes me think
shit?
of there's a Mickey Rourke movie that I think it I don't know if it takes place in China or the US, but it's called Year of the Dragon. It makes me think of the cover art for that one, which is
Mhm.
a inferior film.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I've never seen it. Obviously, there's Ridley Scott has directed a lot of movies, and some of his early stuff that wasn't quite as big of a hit. I haven't gotten to, but interesting filmography in that. He did this movie. He followed it up with Thelma and Louise, which
Oh,
certainly seems like that's what got him back on track.
oh yeah.
Because I don't know anything about this movie, but it seems like it wasn't well received really or a big hit in any way. Like, not that I can tell. I mean,
It was kind of, I want to say it was trying to ride a trend at the time because the late 80s in particular was an era where a lot of a lot of Americans were concerned that Japanese corporate culture was going to dominate the entire planet. Like, there's a reason why Die Hard takes place in Nakatomi Plaza. There's a reason why we have that. I think it's a Michael Crichton film, Rising Sun. There was a lot of hints of like xenophobia going on around at the time. So having a cross cultural film of this sort, like essentially like a buddy cop film, uh, take place in a Japanese setting with Japanese antagonists was very much relevant at the time. But the execution of it just comes across as pretty middle of the road. Like, there's
yeah.
very little that's truly outstanding about it, and that's kind of the biggest problem it has.
I want to walk back my comments about it not being a big hit because
Oh, it was.
I looked at the Wikipedia page. It was this is literally what it says on the Wikipedia page. This is word for word. It says it was also a huge box office hit, grossing over 134 million worldwide in front of a production budget of 30 million. So
Okay, so it made quite a lot of money.
it did well.
I want to say Michael Douglas couldn't miss around this time
Yeah,
period.
but certainly it seems like it's been forgotten to time because I don't know nobody besides you talking about Disney movies today.
It's one of
Sorry.
those. It's one of those on paper movies where, on a conceptual level, it's killer. Like,
Mhm.
it sounds like money, and apparently it was. But in terms of execution, it's just like there's just nothing here that's truly exceptional. Because again, late '80s, not only did we have Japanese xenophobia floating around the air, we also had buddy cop movies coming out our fucking ears. So it was nothing special aside from the
Mhm.
Japanese setting, and of course Ridley Scott's shooting. Like, his cinematography is always going to be next level shit. So he doesn't make ugly movies, is what I'm saying. So at the very
Alright.
least, you'll have that edge.
Last thing I got to say about this, and we
Yo,
don't need to spend too much time on it, but I'm just curious. For you, taking their whole filmographies, the goods and the bads, Ridley Scott or Tony Scott?
oh, good God! I mean, the volume of Ridley Scott's filmography presents is like the biggest problem that comes to mind. Is that I don't think of Tony Scott having as dense a filmography, and of course he's passed away. I think I would favor Ridley, but Tony has had a renaissance of sorts. I have noticed on social media in recent years there's an outpouring of love and
Oh, yeah.
adoration for his entire filmography, even the not so great ones. Like, people are jerking this man's corpse off. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd probably give the edge to Ridley.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, because I do really like a lot of Tony Scott's stuff, but
yeah.
and to be fair, there's a lot of both that I haven't seen. But yeah, and a big thing is I'm not the biggest Top Gun fan, so
That is a big one
yeah,
because the cultural footprint of that one, you would expect it to be like that's the one that everybody loves him for. It's like, no, it's all right.
yeah.
No,
Um,
I love Top Gun because I was raised on Top Gun. My dad was in the Air Force, and I mean, Top Gun is a Navy film. I'm well aware of this, but planes and jets were kind of a cool thing for me and my brother growing up. I am well aware that Top Gun is a Navy film, just so we're clear.
mhm.
But yeah, the Top Gun soundtrack. My mom would work out to that in the basement, so I heard that soundtrack was the soundtrack of my childhood. So that movie's a big deal to me. But like, do you have any other Tony Scott films that jump out at you as like special, or ones that you would
I mean, I think
like
my
have make that argument for you a little bit?
I think my favorite movie of his, which maybe I don't know if you can say it helps it or hurts it. I'd probably say my favorite is True Romance.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which, a lot of people kind of forget about because it doesn't feel as much like a Tony Scott movie. And obviously the Quentin Tarantino thing. But I think his direction in there is really solid. And I actually kind of find it refreshing in terms like having somebody direct a Tarantino script that's not Tarantino. Like, I think it actually feels nice. Like, it's a little less. I love Tarantino, but it's a little less self indulgent, I feel like.
I'm glad we
Um,
have that. Just
yeah.
as an example of this is what this person's work looks like when he's not at the helm, and it does have a distinct flavor to it, but it still has his voice. So it's curious. It's interesting that we have it.
It certainly makes it seem like if he does do his 10 films and done, he can still keep writing scripts and have somebody direct them,
I
you
mean, he's
know?
writing books and stuff, so yeah,
Yeah.
he should
Yeah.
he should stick to the pen if he's not going to pick up the camera anymore.
Yeah. But I think the Crimson Tide is a really good
I love that movie.
Tony
That's
Scott
great.
movie.
Yeah.
I really like Unstoppable. I think Unstoppable is a great movie.
Oh my god, I love the catalyst to the plot. Like
Mhm.
the inciting incident in that movie is the
Yeah.
funniest fucking shit you'll ever see.
Whoa,
Large
whoa, whoa.
man hops off train, forgets to get back on. There's
Yeah,
your movie.
Looney Tunes ass start to a
It's
movie.
it's so good how simple it is. It's just
Yeah.
big guy missed the bus.
Mhm.
The big guy missed the bus, and now we have a fucking national crisis.
Yep. Yep.
Amazing. But yeah, Crimson Tide is that's in my top tier Tony Scott for sure. I adore that movie. I made the girlfriend watch that movie when we were still very much like dating. And it was a tough one for her because she doesn't like gray. She likes things black and white, and that whole movie is
Mm,
just steeped in gray, where it's
yeah.
it's all about perspectives and arguments and stuff. But Gene Hackman, goddamn, that guy's a fucking rock star. He's what we're missing in cinema. I miss that guy. I miss his nasty edge because he is
Mhm.
such a fucking prick in every movie. He is the
Oh, he's
biggest
great.
asshole, but he's so good at it, and he's also really funny when he needs to be. Like he's a treasure. Like he's a national fucking treasure. I love his performances. And speaking of which, Enemy of the State. That was one I got to see in the theater when I was pretty young, and it's stuck with me. That editing style, not everybody can pull it off, but Tony Scott could and
Mhm.
did.
Yeah. I've never seen Enemy of the State. So,
Oh, I would
oh,
highly recommend it. I mean, it's very
yeah.
much like an artifact of its era. Like you need to settle into when it came out. Like you need to keep that in the back of your mind. It is of its era. There's lots of frosted tips, Brad. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Mhm.
um, but I really like it. I think it's great. I think it has an amazing energy to it and good Gene Hackman. Fun Jack
Mhm.
Black too.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. He's
young
in
Jack
that.
Black. Yeah, and
Yeah.
like in his what his I still know what you did last summer era. He was in that
Classic.
with dreadlocks.
Yeah. Yeah, the sequel. Yeah, 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 yeah. Classic.
Yeah, I don't know if he sings in Enemy of the State, but he's definitely in it. Anyway, uh, Brad, I'm a little short on time this evening, so do you want to do one more pick and then head into the speed round, or do you just want to head into the speed round?
I'm good to just head right into the speed round because you said you got a good selection there.
I
So
do have quite a lot of picks, uh, so I'll try not to bore everybody with all this stuff. But do you want to go first, or should I, Brad?
I'll go first. There's some in here that you may pull out.
Okay.
You might have. So if you have one, just start waving your hands around.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying our speed rounds the past couple of months. So feel free to interject at any time you wish. So, folks at home, what's about to happen here? The thing that we've been referring to as the speed round is essentially where Brad and I set aside quite a few more picks than we actually have talked about this evening. In order to give all of them their due, we're just going to blitz our way through them, not doing as much of a back and forth discussion. So, while it may be called the speed round, sit back. It's probably going to take about a half hour. Anyway, this is where you get to see all our runner up picks, essentially. So, Brad, you have the floor, sir. Let us proceed into the
So,
speed round, the
first one I
speed
got he
force for
Speed
the
Force,
Santinos of the world.
Speed Round. First one I got here is Children of Men, highlighting the, famous, oneer inside the car, which is a
Hmm.
great scene, and I
Absolutely.
love this movie. I've got Speed, which I would have thought might be one you pulled, maybe not, I don't
I
know.
did. I have it in my hand. It's
Okay,
not
yep.
on camera right now, but yes, we both. Oh, you have the slip cover though. You win. People don't need to see that.
And, fun fact, I believe I believe this was the first 4K I watched on, the TV that I currently own. So, it was a tester, it was a tryout.
What year is your TV from, Brad? Do you remember?
Oh, I got it, what, maybe 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Ooh,
Something
cherry.
something like that. Yeah. Fairly newer.
Okay.
But yeah, Speed rocks. I've only seen it a handful of times, but great action movie.
It's fucking amazing. It's from a Dutchman, by the way, Jan de
Yeah.
Bont.
Great name, great film. It's one of his only great films, I would say, from my memory. But
Kyle likes Twister. Kyle loves Twister.
I like Twister. But it's not as good as Speed.
No, Speed is a top tier action thriller. Like
Yeah.
it really, like when you watch it, it's kind of a sublime experience. You see that there's a separation between this and other films of its ilk. Like it's
Hmm.
special. Twister, not so much.
No, no.
The Haunting, even more so.
Yeah, that's true. I actually own a lot of Jan de Bont movies. Actually, now
I
that I
mean,
think about it.
he doesn't have that many movies, but I
No,
mean,
I own
he was the hot
close.
shit in the era.
Yeah, yeah. I've got Tenet, which highlighting the highway sequence, which is kind of the central set piece of the movie. They're going forward, coming back, which I really like. Movie is I'm still not crazy about it, but I do really like that sequence.
That reminds me, I didn't pull it off, but the Matrix Reloaded, the highway sequence. I
Oh yeah.
I
Oh, how did I
have
not think of that
I
one?
have the disc, but I didn't grab it.
Do I own? I own. Do I own all? Actually, I might not own the sequels. Now that I think
Oh,
about it. Yeah, I think I only have the first one. Yeah, that's why I didn't grab it. Okay. I have Jurassic Park and The Lost World. Jurassic Park,
son
only
of a
Blu-ray,
bitch!
disgustingly. You get those were picks for you as well, or I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
The Lost World, the trailer.
Yeah, which is such a good set piece. I remember like watching that movie as a kid and just watching that scene over and over again. So fun, so like just very Spielbergian. But yeah, I love that scene, and I Jurassic Park, just the whole thing with the jeeps and the T Rex sequence, him
Hmm.
crashing in through the sunroof or whatever.
Spielberg's a
Um,
master of set pieces.
oh
That's
yeah.
again, that's another thing that we're missing in cinema these days is like really carefully storyboarded and like beautifully constructed scenes that just breathe. That's just like we're doing the T Rex scene now.
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
We're just in it for the next several minutes.
Yeah, I really like The Lost World. I think it's underrated, actually. I think there's some great sequences in there.
It's a
Obviously,
special one to me. I saw
yeah.
it in the theater on my birthday. It was
Oh,
my birthday gift,
really? Okay.
and it delivered. I love that movie.
I did not see it in theaters. I was still a bit too young, I believe. So my first one was Jurassic Park 3 in theaters.
Hey,
Uh, I've got Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1. The whole handcuffed to the car sequence, which is a lot of fun.
oh yeah, that was really fun. That
Yeah,
was
that
that
was
was
good.
really fun and cute in the theater.
And everything with the train at the end too. If we're counting trains, throw that in there. I think because we talked about this. I think we did it for your show maybe. Like it was not our favorite of the franchise. It was actually, I think, for me and you, it was more towards the bottom, but still very good. I still really liked it.
Yeah, it's not Fallout.
No.
Very few things are, but I'm curious to see what they do next, being as
Yeah.
it is a part one.
Hmm. Another movie from when I was going all in on steelbooks. I remember I actually pre-ordered this one from Target. This is a Target exclusive for Fury, the Brad Pitt movie, Fury.
Son of a bitch.
Yes. Tanks, baby, tanks. And we've talked about this movie. We've talked about David Ayer. When this movie came out, it was like I think it was End of Watch first, and then this one. I want to say, right? Does that
I
sound
think
right?
so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked End of Watch. I wasn't crazy about it, but the 1-2 punch of both of those, I was like, this guy's gonna be this guy's the real deal. He's gonna be amazing. And I've never seen somebody fumble the ball so hard. But I
Yeah,
still love
he's on the shit
Fury.
list, man. He
Yeah.
he let us down. Like he showed some promise, but I don't know, man. He's like fixated on doing some certain things with his films that just it
Mhm.
has not worked and continues to not work.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think Fury is a great war movie. I think it's really good.
It is quite good. It hits
Mhm.
a tone that is somewhat rare for World War II movies. Like it has a very brutal kind of semi like nihilistic tone to it, and the also the war sequences are very well choreographed and executed. Like
Yeah.
it's a good movie. Like it's a pretty solid movie overall. It's just a shame that it's like the one reason we have anything positive to say about David Ayer
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. I love like the moment in the middle of the movie where they, bust into the farmhouse. I love that sequence. But yeah, definitely an outlier in his filmography, like by far.
Yeah.
The last one I got, something that you and I talked about not too long ago. I think we did on my show actually, a retro review of Police Story 3 Super Cop.
Hey.
And the grand finale, which is just the greatest 15 minutes in cinema history, with the great Jackie Chan and Michelle Yeoh, and it is amazing. You got a train, you got a van, you got a helicopter, but we're not counting the helicopter because this is land-based vehicles. There's no helicopter. There's a bike, and it rocks. And yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, no, I also have the same 4K as you. I didn't pull it out because I assumed that you were going to. So unlike the other ones that I was yelling "son of a bitch" about, that one I skipped it. I was like, he's gonna
Like,
do
oh,
it.
he's
I
gonna
know.
grab that
I
one.
know how you operate.
Yeah, baby.
Not to put us down like a weird tangent here, but how much of Jackie Chan's filmography have you seen, Brad? I'm curious.
Well, that is a good question, and I can give you an exact answer.
It doesn't
It's
have to be exact. It's more just like, are you familiar with like, have you seen his early stuff? Have you seen his late stuff? Like,
out of 210 of his films, according to
he's
Letterboxd,
prolific.
I have seen 4%, 4% of his filmography.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, that
I
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of his early stuff. Like I think the earliest I've seen is probably Drunken Master.
Yeah, that's an early one.
Yeah. Um and his later stuff, like his American stuff, I saw when I was younger. I haven't
Yeah,
watched in a while, like Rush Hour or Shanghai Noon. I haven't seen those in a long time.
I call that one
Um
my Kung Pao chicken.
yeah.
Have you seen Rumble in the Bronx?
Yes, I've seen Rumble in the Bronx. I feel like I went through a while ago and watched like his main like 80s highlights. Like I saw all the Police Story movies. I saw Rumble
Yeah.
in the Bronx. Um let's see, what else have I seen here?
First
Ah,
Strike, Mr.
First
Nice
Strike.
Guy,
Yep. Mr. Nice Guy I own but I haven't watched yet.
Operation Condor.
I haven't seen that one.
Ooh, that's a good one. Armor
What
of
about
God.
I haven't seen that one.
You
How
would
about
like those. You would like both of those.
Who Am I? Who Am I?
Who am I?
Amazing. That is the greatest moment in cinema history right there. That is
That should be
amazing.
on your board, Brad.
Yeah. Yeah. That was
uh,
a rental from Family Video. I don't think that was not a I think that one I rented from Family Video, and when they were closing, I wanted to buy it because they were selling everything, and either they sold it already or they just lost it or they just threw it away, but I couldn't find it. So
where is Who Am I? No, Who Am I is a fun one. I wouldn't say it's like an amazing Jackie Chan movie, but it has highlights for sure. That the clog fight is, I mean, that's classic Jackie Chan shit right there.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and of course the rooftop 2-on-1 with Ron Smorenberg, and I forget the name of the Chinese fella that he fights, but it's two guys in suits where they use every part of the animal in constructing the choreography. Where it's like, oh, they're
Mhm.
wearing vests, they're wearing jackets, they're wearing ties. I could use that. I love the behind the scenes footage of Jackie Chan cussing out Ron Smorenberg for being slow. He's like, motherfucker, kick fast.
Mhm.
It's really fun seeing Jackie Chan heated because it just doesn't compute, or it's like he
Yeah,
just
yeah.
seems so lovable. It's like, no, he's a cunt. You don't get that good. You don't pull off things that sharp and that precise on film without
Mhm.
being a little bit of a prick. Um, but yeah, you've seen a lot actually. Like that makes me happy because when I feel like his style probably works for you pretty well. Like it
Oh,
seems
yeah.
like you
I
would
I
probably
I
like
like
his
him a
stuff.
lot. Yeah. Drunk we did a review for Drunken Master 2, I remember.
That was really early on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an
Yeah.
early collab.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Jackie Chan, his stuff is there's something special about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was another clip that I inserted into the edit of my Red Cow that I
Mm,
edited. Wheels on Meals. They
mm.
were talking about examples of movies where you love like 60% of a movie, but you still qualify it as a film that you love. Where it's like Wheels on Meals, to use British terminology, faffs about quite a lot, but then when it's
Yeah.
going, it's sublime. Like it's amazing stuff. It's just there's a lot of farting around in that movie. Anyway, so speed round for me. I'll try to be quick, being as I have considerably more set aside than you did. But you did pare it down just a little bit by picking some stuff that I have set aside. So I'll try to be quick here. I mentioned uh, the star of this movie on my most recent pick just now. Funny coinky dink. I have here a Japanese film from the 70s, not a David Leitch film that bears the same name. Uh, Bullet Train.
Mm.
This is a Japanese like procedural heist thriller of sort. No, it's like a hostage thriller. So there's a bomb on a bullet train, and it's about logistics. It's about procedure. It's about trying to figure out how to solve this crisis, and it's very similar to Sorcerer in its structure, where it's very, very, very fixated on the details of the process, borderline boring at times, but it takes itself very seriously. And Ken Takakura is the chief antagonist of it, and Sonny Chiba has a unfortunately very, very, very small role in it. But it's a nifty little like disaster thriller of sorts from the era of disaster thrillers. Um, Transformers the movie, aka the movie that represents me as a person. This is the film I've probably seen the most in my lifetime, and the entire cast of characters is comprised of robots who transform into vehicles, many of which are based on the ground. I have John Wick 4, Chapter 4, excuse me. This is the special super duper Amazon edition of the film with the slipcase and stuff. Um, the car stunts at the Arc de Triomphe, that
Yeah.
sequence in
I thought about
particular.
grabbing that one, but I didn't.
Yeah, a lot of the John Wick films incorporate car stunts, but I want to say that that sequence was the most outstanding or the most memorable of the
Yeah.
entire franchise thus far. I love that sequence. It's just so beautifully put together. The whole last 40 minutes of that movie is just a fucking roller coaster. They really did something special with that. Um, the Batman, the very divisive Batman. I am a pro Batman person. I like this movie. I really, really, really like this movie quite a lot. A lot of people in my orbit disagree with me. A lot of my friends, even the girlfriend, kind of hates this movie. But
Wow.
yeah, I know it makes me feel bad. That's like, man, why we gotta disagree on the Batman? But yeah, I really, really love this movie. Actually, I found way too much to think and say about this movie, to the point that this is a 3 hour podcast on catching up on cinema. If you are interested to check that out, I had a lot of thoughts about the film, a lot of positive thoughts. Um, the Batmobile sequence is kind of a exceptional set piece in the film that is shot unconventionally, and I think that was a wise choice because a car chase is a car chase is a car chase. But if you mix it up, if you do something we haven't really seen before by having the rain and the atmosphere be kind of a participant in the action, to a heightened degree,
Yeah.
it at least is novel. And in action design, novelty counts for a lot. So yeah, the Batmobile sequence in that film, as a guy who's not a car guy, um, I thought was pretty neat. Um, Akira on 4K. This is the hardback, like super duper special edition of the movie. You can kind of see the wreckage of Kaneda's motorcycle there. One of the single most iconic vehicles in I don't know, in cinema, honestly. Like it's right up there in my book with the DeLorean from Back to the Future. I don't actually own Back to the Future, so I can't show that one. But
Whoa.
I know, but the bike from this movie, as far as I understand, there's still people trying to. People often recreate it in real life. It doesn't actually exist, but it is a piece of sci-fi iconography that kind of similar to like a Mad Max or something. The cultural footprint of it is vast.
Hmm.
And the opening sequence of that movie involving the bike chase, like the bike fight between the gangs, is mind blowing shit. And just the design of that bike is iconic. Um, I have a movie that I'm considering selling because I seriously doubt I'll ever put it in my player ever again. Ambulance. Uh,
Oh
Michael Bay's
yeah.
Ambulance. Get to
No,
the
that's a
ambulance.
classic, dude. Don't sell that.
I don't know, man. Like it didn't do much of anything for me. Like it Michael Bay found drones. That's the movie. Michael
Hmm.
Bay found drones and had fun driving them. That's mostly what this movie is. It is a remake, I believe. I think of it like a French movie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, this one didn't do a whole lot for me, but it is essentially one long extended car chase involving an ambulance, so it gets involved in the discussion. Um, The Fugitive. There's a train wreck that happens, an iconic train wreck that happens. That the execution of the rear projection special effects are outstanding, even by today's standards. This is just an awesome fucking movie. I really like it a lot. Really happy to have the 4K. Um, the Punisher, starring Thomas Jane. Uh, this movie is average. It's just straight down the middle, kind of okay. But it does feature one of the worst car chases I think I've seen in any major production. Not like in movies in general, but just like in any like studio film. The setting and the choreography and the shooting of it, it's all just like half-assed.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even as a kid, like I remember my friend asking aloud, like, why aren't there any people around? Because it just so happens that the neighborhood's completely deserted, with the exception of some girl playing soccer who interrupts the chase. It's very awkwardly staged. It's very clunky, very hollow. Um, Indiana Jones, truck chase, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, truck chase. That was kind of the first thing that jumped out at me, like when we decided to talk about this. Like
Yeah.
I can say the words truck chase, and you know exactly what that shorthand is referring to. On top of that, you also have the tank chase in Last Crusade, and let's not talk about the jungle crusade or whatever in Crystal Skull. And I don't own Dial of Destiny because I'm not sure if I would need to. Which is really sad because Indiana Jones is some of my favorite shit ever, with the exception of Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny. Oh, for $5.99. I hope I didn't pay all of $5.99 for this. Jack Reacher.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
you,
Classic.
this is was this one of the first collaborations he had with this director?
Yeah. What as the director? I don't know
Yeah,
if that, he
he
might
was a
have.
writer before that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I believe that is his first work with Tommy.
Yeah, this movie, the entire concept of it, like, and it's based on novels, of course, but like from a production standpoint, the entire concept of this movie was based around throwback, where like everything about it is intentionally slowed down and pared down to have like a 1970s kind of vibe to it,
Hmm.
complete with muscle car chase that involves no music being played over it, very similar to like Bullet, for instance. um, you can tell that as they were constructing the car chase sequence in this movie, they had those movies, those classic detective thrillers and stuff, in the back of their minds when they were making it.
I love Jack Reacher.
It has that black dog appeal to it for me
Yeah.
anyway, where it's like
Werner
I don't know.
Herzog is the villain? Come on.
I'm working at the mining corporation. I don't know why I'm in this film. Why am I an actor in Check Reacher? I shared a scene with Tom Cruise. He's a very strange man.
Yeah.
I only have 3 fingers in this film. I bit the rest off. Yeah, Werner Herzog as the villain in that film. Oh yeah, and everybody's favorite punching bag, Jai Courtney as the
Mhm.
muscle. That was one of the first times I saw him, and he's got a punchable face, man. Anyway, I have 2 films here from a series: Fast Five and Fast and Furious Six. Um, Specifically those two because I don't like the whole series. I
Are
still
those
keep.
are those the only ones you have?
No, I have all of them from 5 onward.
What, you're
Um,
a fan. What a super fan.
I don't.
Although I think
To
you're
me to me it pe-
I'm
it
the same. I
peaked
have them
here.
all from 5 onward.
It peaked here. Like it.
Yeah.
Some people like 7 quite a lot. I hate to say it, not to shit on the dead, but Paul Walker dying mid production hurt that movie. You can see it.
Mhm.
Um, Unfortunately, you can feel it kind of. But to me, the vault driving sequence that serves as the finale for this one is pretty fucking amazing stuff. Like just on a conceptual level, it's like they do all the things that you would hope they would do. Like
Yeah.
somebody really thought it out and really went for broke when it came for like providing spectacle. And this one, kind of the same deal. The storyboarding of the finale involving the carrier plane, like the cargo plane, and all the vehicles moving along like parallel to it, like the inside and outside action transpiring like outside of the plane and within the plane, involving all the cars and stuff. It's really tightly constructed. Like the editing of it really sticks out in my mind as being really well thought out. Like I wasn't hurting for visual information throughout the whole experience.
Mhm.
Uh, we have a comment here from Darwin's kid, who I won't say, I guess, on the air who that is, but I know who it is, who is mocking me by saying Trevor has a full back tattoo of Vin Diesel. Um, will neither confirm nor deny. Moving on.
Yes. I
So I
do
haven't. Go ahead.
I just gonna say I do love in 6. That sequence with the big carrier plane or whatever is great, but I do love at the end, and I'm not the first one to point this out. It's like a 15-minute long scene, and the plane is like taking off or whatever, and by the end they look back and see how far they've gone, and they've gone maybe a quarter mile in 15. Like it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is around the time, unfortunately, the filmmakers and the actors, everybody involved in the films, got wise to all the memes about the films, and they leaned into it.
See,
And
but
that's
I
when
feel like
things get toxic, is when you lean into the shit that people are organically finding enjoyment from on their own.
that wasn't leaning into it though. I think that was just like
No,
a naturally like kind of just like stupid like thing.
yeah,
And it's from then on that they kind of leaned into it.
no. For me, it was 7 onward
Yeah.
is when they, in fact, like one of the later ones, they actually have a line of dialogue. I think it's in like 9 or something. I don't even. That's the problem, is I can't even separate the new ones anymore. Like
Mhm.
5 and 6 are distinct films in my mind. Anything beyond that starts to blur together a little bit. Um, but there's actually like a line of dialogue saying like, "Don't let him get into the car," because that's a meme at this point, where it's like, as long as, if they're in cars, then it's basically they turn Super Saiyan and they can do miraculous things essentially.
Mhm.
And they actually put it in the movie. It's like, okay, now you're putting a hat on it. Now you're drawing attention to the fact that you guys are checking out the Reddit about these movies, and now I'm having a lot less fun because you're winking at me in the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I have more franchise movies here. I have the Bourne trilogy on Blu-ray. I don't have Legacy in any format, the Jeremy Renner film, that is, and also Jason Bourne on 4K. It's kind of an awkward way to collect those films. Bourne trilogy features plenty of nifty car stunts. Supremacy probably gets the nod in terms of overall quality. It opens with a neat chase sequence in India and concludes with a very cool one in, I forget if it's Berlin or Russia, but the finale, the car chase sequence, the Bim Bam Smash is the piece of music that plays over it. Really incredible sequence. I mean, it's thrown into a wood chipper when it comes to the editing, and yet somehow it still kind of sticks the landing. It's a lot better than the opening of Quantum of Solace. I'll just say that much. Um, Born Identity, of course, has I think it's like the Mini Cooper chase down the stairs. Ultimatum also ends with a car chase as well, but I don't remember it being as good as Supremacy. Jason Bourne has the Vegas chase sequence at the end involving the cop car, which is fine. It's good. But to me, the standout is I think it's like a moped or it's a motorcycle. I think they're on a motorcycle driving through a riot in Greece. It takes place around the midpoint of the movie, and it is a incredible set piece actually. Just from a production standpoint, the scale of it and the level of confusion and energy that happens in that sequence is actually really cool stuff. It's just the movie built around it is kind of shit. Anyway, we have X-Men Dark Phoenix, the infamous reshoot ending. Brad, are you familiar with this?
Yeah, the train, right? The train sequence, yeah.
The train sequence. Folks
Mhm.
at home, if you're not aware, the entire finale of this movie, I forget exactly the reason for it. I think there was a conflict with a movie that was coming out parallel to it or something. But they had to reshoot the entire ending action sequence to the film. And it actually kind of worked out pretty well. I don't know what the original plan was, but I do know that there was another film that was coming out around the same time that would have done basically the same thing. So to dodge that bullet, they reshot a train action sequence and had a lot of fun with the choreography. They did a lot of neat stuff with the mutant powers. It's actually a pretty cool scene, although like the production quality of it does feel weirdly cheap compared to some of the other stuff that happens in the movie. It's a very odd movie in a lot of ways, but I actually don't hate it. I don't think it's that bad of an X-Men movie. Like it
No,
just came out at the wrong time.
yeah, it's not great, but it's not bad. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's my feeling. Is that like people shit on it, but I think a lot of those people are people maybe actually haven't seen it because it's not terrible. It's no apocalypse. I think Apocalypse is trash.
Mm,
Uh,
gonna have to disagree with you on that one, bud, but
yeah, didn't you give it 4 stars?
we don't have to get into it.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, I'll cut that part of the podcast. I have a film by apparently one of my favorite filmmakers, being as I own a fuck ton of his movies. Shockingly, in fact, I have plans to pick up his newest one because it came out in Hong Kong a few months ago, I think. Uh, to the Fore, starring the handsome Taiwanese man Eddie Peng, that boy with them abs. This is about cycling. I've talked about it on the podcast before, but yeah, it's a Dante Lamb film, and apparently I really like Dante Lamb because I buy a lot of his movies, including ones about cycling, which, as I said at the top of the podcast, I can't even do, and yet I have interest in apparently. Redline. This is a Santino movie or a Matt movie. Speaking to Brad's boys, Brad's occasional co-hosts on his show. This is a Japanese animated film. There's animated by Madhouse, who is one of the bigger, more prominent animation houses in Japan. Uh, Truly astounding animation. That's all this movie is. It's just eye candy and noise candy, I guess, sound candy as well, ear candy, sights and sounds. This is just an audiovisual experience. Could not give two shits about the plot. The movie doesn't care either. It almost makes a joke about it. But it's entirely about racing, car racing specifically. And holy shit, the visual design of it is astounding. Like if you're a hand drawn animation buff, it's at least worth a look because I don't care about racing at all. But I own that movie and I checked it out because I like hand drawn animation. Snowpiercer. It's about a train. The
oh, that's a
train
good
that
pick. Yeah.
the train that couldn't stop. Uh, uh, the Equalizer 2. Uh, Denzel plays, I think, a Lyft driver in this one. It may be Uber, but he's a Lyft or an Uber driver in the beginning of this movie. That's the whole reason I pulled it off the shelf. Joshua Tree. a subpar Dolph Lundgren film that is basically the entire movie exists just so we can have a 20-minute car chase in Joshua Tree. The Wraith, a movie that Brad has done for
Oh,
Movie
yeah.
Roulette, I believe.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, you liked this, I think, more than I did, actually.
Yeah, I was surprised how much I liked it.
Yeah, it's about like a supernatural alien, what's it, that possesses somebody and has a space car and kills people. Clint Howard is in it, and
Mhm.
Nick Cassavetes is the bad guy. Great soundtrack, at least stuff that I like. Probably not you so much, Brad. But the band Lion is in there, as is Ozzy Osbourne, I believe. Spider-Man trilogy, Spider-Man 2, train sequence. That's all you need to know. That train
Yeah,
sequence
yeah.
is one of the finest things in superhero cinema history. Just that sequence alone is that's all you need. Like that represents the Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films in my mind. Uh, Riding Bean. This is another Japanese animated film. I think it's only like 40 minutes long, but uh, there's a thing that happens in Japanese animation and just in animation in general where directors or studios or productions will fixate on trying to nail a concept down. This one is guns and cars. They really dumped all their effort and their money into really figuring out how to do hand drawn animation for guns and cars. And it's pretty fucking cool if you're just into the technical side of it. You may have noticed that's kind of a thing when it comes to me in animation. I'm interested in the technical like execution
Mhm.
stuff.
Yep.
Couldn't tell you what the fuck happens in Writing Bean or why the characters are doing what they're doing, but the animation is when it's on, it's pretty fucking cool. Initial D. This is a Chinese live action adaptation of a manga and an anime that was very popular when I was in middle school, I think. I think it's still known to this day, but the Eurobeat soundtrack to this show, this movie, is legendary. We were bumping this shit during my friend's bachelor party. Like we were
Oh,
driving to
yeah?
the wedding venue and we were blasting Deja Vu. Have you heard any of these songs, Brad? Have you heard the Initial D soundtrack?
I don't think so, no.
You would probably hate it, but I'll send it to you. It's the dumbest shit imaginable, but it's great to just like be a dipshit with your friends too. It's the soundtrack to tomfoolery. Uh, the Rock, the Humvee chase, that as far as I understand was like a last minute addition to the film, where it's just like Michael Bay got antsy and was like, "We need to have some shit get blown up in the middle of this movie." It's like, does this make any sense? No, but it's going in the movie though. And then the finale here is just a fuck ton of Rider is in the title because Kamen Rider always has a motorcycle as part of his accoutrement. So we have Kamen Rider Black from Discotech Media. We also have Kamen Rider Black RX, the sequel series, which I am in the midst of watching as we speak, working my way through it, working my way downtown. Um, we have Kamen Rider Kabuto, Godspeed Love, director's cut version on DVD. This is a foreign region DVD. I was watching this show via BitTorrent when I was in college. Kind of a big deal to me.
Mhm.
Uh, Kamen Rider the First and Kamen Rider the Next, which is the sequel to the first. Pretty obvious. Um, the action in both of these films is stellar. Everything else is some of the most harebrained bullshit narrative you've ever seen. It's just like there's no thread. Like nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. It's just an excuse for people to get kicked. So if nobody's getting kicked, you can do your homework or make dinner or something. Just look up whenever you hear punching. And then Kamen Rider V3 on DVD. This is the entire television series from 1974 or 73. I've talked about this before, but not in a long time. This is a very special thing to me. I bought this when I was visiting family in Hawaii. This is from a local distribution company, which I believe has folded in recent years. Um, but it's called Generation Kikaida. and it was like this DVD was printed in Hawaii, where I bought it, and it was very expensive, but it was really cool to be able to walk into a department store near my grandma's house and see something right up my alley, manufactured on the island itself, and be able to like buy it and take it home with me. Like this was a hell of a find for me, and that's it.
You got a pretty good Common Rider collection there.
I'm working on it. I've mentioned this on the podcast before. Kamen Rider is not commonly imported to this country. It's very popular in like all over Asia, like the Philippines and Thailand and stuff like that. But um, our region doesn't get it very often. It's only very recently that we've started to have a slow trickle of them coming out, and the ones that I'm actually interested in are few and far between. Like I'm interested in the old stuff because Kamen Rider V3 is from like the early days. Black is from the 80s, and Kabuto's from the 2000s. But like I don't know any of the contemporary shit. I'm more interested in like the ones. And I'm sorry if this is boring for you, Brad, but
No, you're good, man.
the Kamen Rider discs that I need to have on my shelf, and I'm this close to buying import versions of, like unsubtitled. Like they're region one, so they're region A, excuse me. They're Blu-rays. They do play on our players, but they would be Japanese discs without English subtitles. But there's a series of short films, like 40-minute films. It's Kamen Rider Zo, J, and Shin Kamen Rider. Not the new one that your friends saw. There's another one called Shin Kamen Rider from the 90s.
Oh, okay.
All three of these came out contemporary to one another, and they're all from director Keita Amemiya, who I love. I love anything that man touches. His designs. I have art books on my shelf of his design work. His drawings, his paintings are gorgeous. I love it. He's made other shows that I could go on and on and on about. Anyway, he directed those three short films, and I need to have those on my shelf. Um, that is the coolest shit ever. Kamen Rider Zo, in particular, is incredible. It's 40 minutes long. I've actually considered having Kyle watch it, like forcing him to do an episode on it, just because I love it so much.
Hmm.
It's condensed. It's like it's 40 minutes long, but they take a Peter Jackson esque approach to the effects work in it, where it's like we only have 40 minutes, but we're going to jam every effect under the sun into this 40 minutes. We're going to have stop motion, we're going to have suitmation, we're going to have opticals, we're going to have miniatures, we're going to do it all. And they do it in all three of those movies, and it's awesome stuff. I've actually sent you clips of, I think, the Shin Kamen Rider, the transformation sequence. It was
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
very Cronenberg inspired because it
Hmm.
did come out around the time The Fly came out in what 86, so it would have been in the wake of that, which is a film I guarantee you had a splash in Japan. um, anyway, those three movies. If I was to request any Kamen Rider content find its way to our shores, English subtitled and cleaned the fuck up, like full HD, I need those. I need those badly. Again, I'm considering just buying the unsubtitled discs and having them imported because they're special. I love them.
Yeah. Well, that's a good set of vehicle flicks you got there, my man.
Yeah, too many. But as I said, speed round wasn't going to be short. I'm glad we proceeded it into it when we did. I'm pretty sure it was about a half an hour.
Hmm.
Called it on the
Yeah.
nose.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
uh, that's that's not even to say that's all of the vehicle movies we have, because I'm sure we have more.
Oh, we have way more. Honestly, like cars are everywhere.
Hmm.
Whoa, there was a phone. Okay, so I suppose that draws to a close our discussion of Valiant Vehicles today on Tales from the Shelf. So here comes the part where I get to say thank you, Brad, for joining me today. This was great fun, as it always is. Uh, and how about you let our listeners and hopefully viewers know where they can find you and your very awesome podcast?
So it's the Cinema Speak podcast. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find your shows. You can follow us on X. It's at the Cinema Speak. On Instagram, Cinema Speak Podcast, and on YouTube as Cinema Speak. And you can find us on the web at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
Yeah, thank you for that, Brad. Also, thank you for having me on your show very recently.
Yeah, we should say that. Yeah, coming
Yeah,
out
that's
tomorrow. Yeah, I should.
tomorrow.
Um, we reviewed The Fall Guy.
Yeah, yeah. So look forward to that if you're subscribed to Brad's feed. That was a very fun conversation. I'm
Yeah, it
actually
was
looking
good.
forward to listen to it
Yeah, yeah,
because I
it
had
was
so much
solid. It was
fun.
fun.
Yeah. So as for my bit, though, if you would like to catch up on any of our other Catching Up on Cinema content, you can find all of that collected on our website at catchinguponcinema.com. You can also find us on the social medias in the form of the Twitter/X at Catching Cinema, as well as the Instagram at Catching Up on Cinema. So feel free to hit me up at either of those. The podcast is available on pretty much every platform you can imagine, including Bitcade. So fucking Google it. And that being said, thank you so much for listening and hopefully watching. And we will catch you next time. Say bye, Brad.
Thanks for watching/listening.
Yeah, thanks for commenting about James Bond movies and
Yeah.
such.